Let's get that right. Okay, we're recording is going. Okay, we're gonna continue with what paper was it? The last year's May-June 2019 paper, and anytime during the session you can just stop me and ask. We have I think about 20 people or more on the line, 23, 24 as it goes up. But yes, please feel free to stop me somewhere during the time if there's anything that I need to explain again. I think this is our second last session before the exam. So if there's any questions that's worrying you, please ask. Okay, and let's hope the lines is staying on, as the wind and rain and coldness in Cape Town is quite terrible this morning. So let's hope everything is okay with the internet. Okay, cool. So let's start with question 11, and I hope everybody can see it. So just give a thumbs up if you can see it, when I can continue. Okay, cool. Okay, so this was quite a interesting question as well. When I looked at this one in the paper, the simplification, and then this one, it's not that I have seen this every time in every paper, not also in your assignment. So I thought it was an interesting one. There are log rules for it. So it comes down to understanding the log rules again for that. So let's just quickly do it. And the easiest way that I looked at it was to say, okay, let's first solve what is inside. So then the log 18 will stay like that for now. And what is inside was, when if you divided 34.8 divided by 1091.7, you get 0.032. And when the log rule is actually, so if you have, and I'm just now going to write something, it can be any, but then that log rule is basically saying log A, and that is supposed to be A, divided by log B. So that is basically the log rule. So here we can say log of 0.032 divided by log 18. Okay, and that when you need to work out with a calculator, and then my answer is the minus 1.1922. So that is basically from log rules. There's nothing else in here. Some of the fancy calculators can already calculate that, where you can put in the 18 as part of the log formula. So again, if you have the fancy calculators that can do it, you can do it straight on the calculator. You don't need to follow the rule. But if you don't have that calculator that can do it, this is the other way of doing it. Okay, so let me just, there was, okay, did you get the same answer, Anthony? And you can speak on the, I don't mind. Okay, cool. Okay, so there's a oh yes, obviously because with with that divided by that, it's the same to say log 34.8 minus log 1091.7. Um, so yes, that's one of the other rules as well. Remember the yeah, okay, so you could have done it that way as well. Remember the log A minus log B is also equal to log A divided by B. Yeah, so there's actually a few ways of doing it. But again, if you have a calculator that can do it, please do that. Questions on that, or can we go on to the next few questions that will focus on consumer surplus and producer surplus? Okay. Okay, cool. Let's go on to the next one. And just some of the background noise. So if you can switch off your mic, it will be great. Okay, let's look at this one. And this was quite an interesting one to look at, because we normally get the demand and supply function that it is or both simple linear regression or both are quadratic. We haven't really seen one, or I haven't really seen one where it's not the same type of formula. So that's why I thought this was an interesting one. But remember, the maths behind it still nearly stays the same. So when we need to do equilibrium, remember that is where the demand will be equal to the supply. So it doesn't matter what type of formula you have. We are busy with the May-June 2019 paper. So it doesn't matter what formula you have. You just need to say every time it's the one equal to the other one. So let's do that. So it is okay, and then we basically need to sort it out that everything is on the one side, and that it is equal to 0. So I'll bring everything to this side basically, so that I can work with the q to the power of 2 that's positive. So if I bring that over to this side, it is minus 2q plus 3q, so that gives me 5q. And if I bring this to this side, that becomes a minus. So I'm sitting with minus 24, if I'm correct, and that is equal to 0. Okay, so then basically what are they asking us? So they are asking us determine the equilibrium of a price. So what would you guys have done at this stage? Okay, so I would work out the roots. That is what I would have done. So I would have said, okay, let's see. Hopefully, if I look at those answers, it seems to me that I can factorize it nicely, that I don't need to use the x equal to, what is it, minus b plus minus, that whole equation. So I would first see if I can factorize it out. So, and then let's see, we use these that they actually give us. So let's look at the 8 and 5. So let's look at if I've got there 8. So as I always do it, in front of a q there's 1. So this needs to be q, that needs to be q. Then I'm sitting with 24. So 24 can be broken up to get that. Can be 12 and 2. And it can be 8 and 3. Okay, so if I multiply the ones in 24 minus 1 or plus is not going to give me 5. 12 minus 2 or plus 2 is not going to give me 5. So that is not going to work. That's not going to work. 8 minus 3 will give me the 5. Cool. So then I know the one is 8. The other one is 3. Let's just wait that it actually saves the presentation again. And then I'm, okay, it needs to be plus 5. So that means I need to put the plus in front of the biggest one. So when I multiply that out, it will give me my minus 24. So then I'm sitting with q is equal to minus 8, or it is equal to 3. Okay, so then you can't really have a negative production. So then I'm seeing, okay, q there is 3. So I would have automatically just now have said, okay, that's my answer. I don't need to look at how to work out the p. That would have been automatically, there's only one q that is free. So to save time in the exam, I would have said, okay, I know number 1 is the correct answer, but let's just make sure if there was another one that had a free, you still need to work it out. So I will use that simpler formula. So for me to work the p out, I'll use the simple formula. I don't want to use the quadratic. So 29 minus 3, and the q was 3. So it will be 29 minus 9, which will give me 20. So I just made sure that that is the correct answer. Okay, so basically I think, yes, the Scully method will also be a cool method with this one. And it is, you can actually, and let's just explain the Scully method to some of the guys that are new on this chat as well, is that basically you start with option 1, you put in q is equal to 3, and then hopefully your answer will, but I'll see with this one, it doesn't matter. So if you actually put in q is 20, okay, then it won't work. So option 2 wouldn't have worked for in the Scully method. If you put in q is equal to 8, 8 times 3 is 24, so you would have gotten an option 3 as, because you're sitting with a q minus 8, that was one of the options, so you would nearly get the answer for that as well. If you put in 5, then it again wouldn't have worked. So you could use another method there, but I think the one thing that we need to remember here is it doesn't matter what type of formula you have. We know at equilibrium the demand is equal to the supply. So whatever formula you have that represents the demand and that represents the supply, you can actually just say the one is equal to the other one, and then you solve it. Okay. Can we go on to the next one? Okay. Silence is also an answer. Okay, cool. So let's go to the next one. So here they are asking us to work out consumer surplus. Okay, consumer surplus, let's look at that. So at least we know with that one it is linear. So it's a linear regression. I want to show this as well. So if you look at this is definitely not. So that is a non-linear equation. Is there another one? Okay, so that again is at least a linear equation. So when we work with linear equation, then it's nearly that we work with the normal one where we, and I'm just drawing two graphs that we normally get that point. We need to work out that is, I think, the consumer surplus, that's the producer surplus. So we need to nearly get what that point is. Oops. So if that is again P and Q, we need to get that point, a Q value. We need to get that P value. We need to get that P value. And that's maybe enough for the consumer surplus at this stage. Okay, so let's see what they give us. The demand function, where P and Q are the price and quantity respectively. Calculate the consumer surplus for the demand function, where the market price is 10. So basically, I will start this with, you have P is equal to 10. So that will give me a quantity that I can work with. So if I take the 55 or 58 to that side, it becomes minus 58. Minus 58 plus 10 gives me minus 48. On this side, I'm sitting with minus 0.4 Q. And so then if I say 48 divided by 0.4, I get 120. Remember, because you're dividing minus by a minus, it becomes a positive. So your Q is 120. So what are they asking us? Calculate the consumer surplus. So they ask us for consumer surplus. So it's not just the Q, because there was the Q value. So again, just be on the lookout what they are asking us in the exam, and that you don't do that and say, oh, but there is my 120, and don't remember that you must actually work out the consumer surplus and not the Q. So that at least then I will take out as one of my options. Okay, so then basically we know what the Q value is. It's 120. At that point, we know what the P value was. The P value was 10. And then, because we're working with the demand function, that is your y-intercept. So we know that point there is actually 58. So then for your consumer surplus to work that out, the formula is, because it's a triangle that we are working out, so we need to work out that area of that triangle. Because it's the triangle, the maths formula is a half times base times height. So we have a half, we have the base is up until there, so it is for 120. And the height is the 58 minus 10, so that we can get that area, which will also be the 48 that we work with. So then if you multiply that out, half times 120 times 48 will give you 2880. And then option 3 will be the correct option. Okay, but here we're working with a linear regression. So then if we're working with linear regression, it's a normal consumer surplus that we need to work out. So it's for half times base times height. Any questions from anybody on this one? So if we needed to work out the producer's surplus, they would have needed to give us the supply function for that. So we can't work out the producer's surplus without the other formula. Okay, so let's move on to question 14, and I think this is, we've already identified it is non-linear, and I think for that then nearly we need to, what I then normally do is, I know it's non-linear, so when I need to calculate the consumer surplus, I automatically go into the function nearly, so that I know where I need to work towards. And I think I have given this also on the formula page, so we will share that again. I'll share that again today to the guys that are new on the group as well. And if there's new guys joining today, I'll later on give you my cell number that we can just add you to the WhatsApp group. Okay, so the formula when we need to work out consumer surplus in a non-linear is the integration then times the nearly the squares that we work with, and nearly how you can look at it is, and I don't even know if this is how it is going to look, but basically how it normally then works is that, and it can be that one, so that you have a square, you work that out, you minus the square, so that you're sitting with a rest of so you'll basically, with the integration, I think you will work out that area, that smaller area that is under it, so that you can sit with that part. But it all depends also on the formula that you're working with. But that is when you're working with a nice quadratic formula, and I don't know yet what this one will look like. Okay, so consumer surplus, that is how you would work it out when we actually have this defined in a better way. So let's do that. And so how I normally would look at it is, they tell us at price is equal to 5. So 5 is equal to 25 over Q plus 2. To be honest, I can't work with something that I need to divide by, so I need to transform it. So if I multiply on both sides with the q plus 2 from maths. Basically, that will then cancel it out at the bottom. So I multiply on both sides with the q plus 2. So my next step is then, okay, I need to multiply that in. So I will sit with 5q plus 10 is equal to 25. Then you can basically say that is 5q is equal to 15, because I take the 10 to that side. And if I divide by 5, my answer is 3. Okay, so then we actually have enough. Let me clean up space here. We have enough information, I think, to answer this. So let's quickly see if I do have enough information. I know the q is 3. My formula is actually, so we're working with that formula. So it is 25. Just need to remember to write it correctly. And then we have the P and the Q, so it is 5 times 3. Okay, so then basically what we do is, and let me ask you guys that, what would you do next? Let's get some bit of interaction. If this was in the exam on Tuesday, what would you oh, I see we're 41 actually. Okay, so if anybody wants to, Zainab, yes, use calculator. Yes, I would also say use calculator. If you don't have a calculator, what would you do? Yeah, I know. The smart calculators actually does it quite awesomely. Yes.
When do you integrate then further, or can you accept that that is already a function that has been integrated?
Okay, so I must actually do that still. So sorry, yes. So let me rewrite that. And that will nearly answer, I think, answer your question. So if you see that, you still need to integrate.
Okay, so you can accept that the demand function, or the p equals 25 over q plus 2, is already the integrated function. You don't have to. Okay. Well, how do you know that though?
Okay, so no. So let's do. So you still need to integrate this function.
Okay, you do. Cool. Then we're on the same page.
Yeah. No. Sorry, okay. Yeah. Otherwise, yeah.
Okay, no, that answers my question.
See, and that makes it, again, if you don't have a calculator, it's a difficult one to integrate. It's just not a simple formula or a simple quick and I think that for me again is why I nearly every time say use the extra tools that you have available, because again I think you're writing 30 questions. in 2 hours time. So the time that you have is very limited, and this is not a simple, straightforward, let's put it in and get the answer.
Okay, cool.
So yes.
The smart calculator that you're referring to, is the online one if you don't have the specific one, or is it what specific smart calculator are you referring to?
So are you on the WhatsApp group?
I am, yes, but I joined only in last week.
Okay, no, fine. I'll ask the guys to send pictures, and please, if Siska is on this, please don't send the pinky picture. There is really, but there's also a lot of online tools, and I think that is so the thing for me is, don't now go and buy the smart calculator. You don't have enough time in any case. But there's a lot of online tools as well, and we will share that again on the WhatsApp group, that you can actually do it. I don't know if there's actually an app for that calculator, but you just can download the app for the calculator as well. But yeah, there's also a maths app solver and things like that. So yes, because this, for me again, this now becomes very tricky. It's not just because here, and what is also important is you can't just now replace the free. So you need to, it's just not as simple as that. And if I look at this now, if I need to integrate that, what does anybody have actually on there with them now, and maybe can share in the chat one of those online that quickly put this in, and what will the answer be? And also I see there's a few guys sending their cell phone numbers through. Let me give you my cell phone number. That's always normally easier, and then you can send me a WhatsApp afterwards. So it is 0837908387. Yeah, I also get the 7.9, but I'm also like, thanks, because that was for me also. I also cheated on this one just because I didn't want to work it out. So the answer is 7.9, and nearly, if you work back, that would have minus 15. So obviously that answer would be, what is it, 15 plus 7.9 would have been 22.9. And I think what also happens here is that when you, let's just quickly check if I said, I just want to, for interest's sake, I did that. Oh no, so that also wouldn't have. So see, you need to integrate this, and really that is, I'll work that out later, and that we don't waste too much time, and then I'll send it to you, because when you integrate this, then nearly you will probably see that when you put in the zero will make it nearly zero. It's supposed to, that you only work with a free, but it can be now, because this is Q plus 2, that it can be that when you put in 0, it doesn't give you the same. But let me, in any case, I'll work it out on the side and send it to you guys as well. Because again, it is a long process, and it's just not as simple. So I'd rather just let's talk about it now, and I'll send you the calculation of that afterwards, if you guys are happy with that. But please, I'm I'm in the stage where you guys need to please, you can use some of the other calculators that are available. I think this is that one time where those things are, you have access to it, because not everybody can afford the smart calculator. So I'm all for the other tools that you can use, just because the smart calculator can do all of these things. So I'm like, if you're allowed to use the smart calculator, use the other tools that are cheaper. Just don't use the WhatsApp group on exam day, please. That is not allowed. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So very similar to this, nearly linear question. Yeah, and when in doubt, I always guess free. So here it would have been correct in any case to guess free. So when in doubt, the answer is free. That's another Scully method that Mohammed has learned us. He's also still on the group from last year, and yeah. So let's go on. So this one, we need to find out the producer surplus. So very similar to the thanks. There it is. On the chat. So it is okay, so it's not even just it is quite a long method of doing it. So there's not even a shortcut. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, so you would see it's not even, that would probably take another 5 to 10 minutes to work that out. Okay, so let's go to question 15. The solution is shared in the chat bar. So if you guys want to look at that, how to do the integration. Okay, cool. So producer surplus, I just, again, for myself, always the sanity check is I'll need to get a Q again. I need to get the P that's in line with that, because we need to get producer surplus. It will be this area. So I need to get that point, but that point is that, because that is the Y cutoff. So let's quickly look at what we are dealing with. And here I already actually, so let's populate as I know what I have. So when we need to work out the producer surplus, it will again be, since it is linear, half times base time height. I already have what my height is going to be. It's going to be 90 minus 50. Okay, so at least we have that. So we just need to find out what is the Q. Okay, so at P equal to 90, we need to get the Q. So it is 90 is equal to 50 plus 2Q. So I'll keep 2Q on this side. Take the 50 to that side. The 50 becomes a minus. So 90 minus 50 is equal to 40. So Q is equal to 20. Okay, so then I know if Q is equal to 20, I'll just add it in there. And then basically 90 minus 50 is 40. 40 times 20 is 800 times 0.5. It is 400. And that is option 2. Okay, so this one, so for me, nearly question 15 and question 13 are the easier ones, because that's the straightforward consumer and producer surplus. Question 14 was the confusing one, and for me it's also interesting how they split it out nearly, because again, logical, I would have said let's do a normal consumer surplus, let's do a producer surplus, and then throw in the difficult one. So this is also to nearly confuse you a bit what to do in the process. Okay, so that is nearly producer and consumer surplus. If we needed to work with this function and you needed to do the producer surplus, the only difference would have been that, okay, there would have been a different formula nearly, but the producer surplus one would have been that minus that. So it would have just been the opposite. So again, as you would see, here we are working, when the linear we are working with, we need to work that area out. So if it was a non-linear, exactly the same, so that we would have just said that total minus that one. Okay, and that is just again some of the formulas that are on that page that I've sent through that we'll share again. Okay, while I'm taking a sip of coffee, any questions up until this stage? And I think what is important as well, that I think it was in the exam notes or the exam update, that they will probably ask around 3 or 4 questions per study unit. So on the consumer surplus, producer surplus, it feels like there will always be 2 or 3 questions. So it is all going to be, there will be a linear one and there will be a non-linear one. So I think it is important that you know both ways of doing it. Okay, anybody other questions? Otherwise we can continue with the next one. Okay, so let's...
Sorry, sir.
Yes, ask.
Would you mind please going back to the previous page? I just want to check something quickly.
This one?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'll keep it there for a while. Okay, so let's then go to questions 16 and 17 that are, and at the end of today's session I will save this and send it to the WhatsApp group as well, so that, yes, then you will see all the weird writing that I've done, but then at least you will have that as well. So I'll send that on to you as well, that you can just follow some of the things that I have written. Okay. Question 16 and 17. So the daily rate of sales of a product in units per day is approximated by that function, with T, the number of days it has been on the market. Okay, so they need to tell us if we need to work out something out, what the T is, or we will then otherwise need to do integration or something else. But depending on the question, we can see what we need to do. So they tell us the rate of sales 20 days after the product has been on the market. So if that is the number, the daily rates of sales, we basically just substitute the 20 into that. So what for me is interesting here, so I look at that, then I look at this, and I'm like, my answer must be bigger than 1,800. because that's standard. That will, let me quickly check. I don't think that will ever be negative. So that will never be negative. So that tells me that whatever my answer is, it needs to be bigger than 1,800. So that tells me that that's not bigger, that's not bigger, that's not bigger. There's my answer. Before we have even worked out anything, but let's just substitute and let's see what we do get to. Okay, so I would then say, okay, to get at 20 days, 1,800 plus 1,500 E minus 0.3 times 20 plus 1.5 So let's just check what is that E. So it is minus 0.3 times 20 plus 1.5. Okay, so I hope I'm doing it right. Then if I say that e to the power of minus 4.5, I get 0.011. And if I multiply that by 1,500, I get 1,800 plus 16.663, and I think that goes on. So then round it off to the nearest integer, it gives me 1817. And again, they won't in the exam give you an option of 1817 and 1816. That will just not happen. So you don't need to worry about that. Okay, so Zainab, yes, so you will see that we will probably, so rate equal to derivative, so rate of change, and I think that is important. So yeah, it is still straightforward. The rate of sales at 20 days. Where I think in the next one, there's maybe so it also depends on how they, yes, and I think that is so when they talk rate of change, then you start using the derivatives. Here it is, unfortunately, they use the word rate as well, but it's not in the same context. And I think that is confusing. Because you would, when you go to the derivatives part, they always talk about rate of change. Here it is just that the formula gives you the daily rate. So it could have been, they could have actually used that rate as a bit something, other word as well, just to make it not that confusing. And I think that is nearly the things that in the exam also what happens a lot of the time is that we so focus on what we've practiced that rate is equal to derivative, so suddenly you see rate and you work with a question, and then there's probably one of those answers maybe would even be that. which can be scary. So yeah, so this one it is actually just straightforward. So let's look at question 17. So here it is, and question
Mr. John?
6. Yes.
Sorry, can I just back on question 16? How
Yes.
did you determine that it will be larger than 1,800? Is it because after 20 days you know when substituting that the answer should be more than 1,800, or what?
No.
What did you do? Did you
See? So for me, it is again out of my maths. So it some e to the power of whatever will always be positive.
Okay.
So even if that is negative, e to the power of anything, it can be positive or negative, will always equal to a positive answer.
Ah.
So that was, for me, that is how I realized that whatever that actually is, it will be positive.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is luckily I've been long in the maths business, kind of. So there's small tricks that you pick up, and that was just for me. I saw that, and automatically that tells me that it needs to be, because again that is the constant one.
Yes.
So if that was a negative, then I would have said again my answer must be smaller than 1,800.
Okay.
And then it could have been any one of the other three.
Okay. So it all depends on the plus or minus in front of the after the constant. So
yes,
but E will always be positive.
Yes.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's interesting, and I hope for your exams as well, it is much in line with the assignments that there isn't, and I don't know if anybody have found out yet, but in all your assignments there wasn't a fifth option. Where previously in all the assignments and in the exam there was a fifth option of none of the above. And how I normally, when I did this tutoring the previous few years as well, the chances that it will ever be none of the above is very small. So when I saw this year's assignments and I didn't see the none of the above, I was like, okay, it makes sense. You get the 4 options, so it will be one of them. So I don't know in the exam if it is also just going to be the 4 options. And I haven't seen on all that they've said in your exam preparation pack is that you need to look at previous papers, but previous papers have none of the above. And if you look at your current assignments, it doesn't. So again, I don't know if anybody was able to find that out, or if you also maybe have an online tutor that has more direct contact with the lecture to maybe quickly find that still out before you write the exam. But yeah, but normally it is not none of the above. So that in this instance, that is why I automatically actually went to that one. Okay, let's look at question 17, and question 17 is, again, if you look at it, I would use a calculator here, because what needs to happen here is we still have that formula. So in this one, they said to us after how many days. So it was easy to say, okay, after 20 days, we put in 20 in that formula and we solve it. Here, we need to actually find out what that T is. So now it becomes difficult. So we need to, after how many days, round it to a whole number, will the rate of sale be 2,000 units? So now you need to actually go, oh, sorry, that now doesn't look quite cool. So you need to say 2000 is equal to 1800 plus 15,000 e to the power of 0.3 t plus 1.5. So obviously a calculator would have been very easier to work that out. So firstly, I need to move that to that side. So 2000 minus 1800 is 200. So that is equal to 1500. Okay, so I'm just gonna be lazy now. So it needs to be equal to that. Then when I have that, I must get first rid of the 1500. So I divide on both sides with 1500. So I will sit with 200 over 1500 is equal to e to the power of 0.3 t plus 1.5. So now to get basically rid of that e so that I can actually work with that, I need to do the log of it. So on both sides you need to work the log. So when it is log is equal to minus wait. Now I must just and that again shows how quickly one can make a mistake. And I hope I'm doing it right now. Does that look right? Let me just quickly see one. Okay, so this was a bit cruel, so let's just go on. So if I then say, and this nearly, it's not what I said in one of the previous, so if I take ln of the 200 divided by the 1500, I get minus 2.015. It's equal to minus 0. Let's just do that, t plus the 1.5. So I'll take the 1.5 to this side. So basically it is minus 2.015 minus 1.5. So on this side then I have 3.515, and that is equal to minus 0.3 t. So then I want t on its own, so I divide by minus 0.3 divided by 0.3, and then I'll get t is equal to 1.717, and then round it off to a whole number. It's rounded off to 12. And I know I said in a previous one they won't give you, you got 11.7, And I said in a previous one, they won't give you an option of 11 and 12, but here they do. How would you do it from a calculator from the start? Very good question. Yeah, I don't have even that smart calculator. So Daniel, I think some of the other guys must share it later on the WhatsApp. And I think the Math Solver app will probably be able to do it as well. So there you just write out the whole equation, and if you take a picture of it, it's supposed to work it out. But with a smart calculator, I think you're also in a way able to put it in that calculator. I don't know, to be honest. I have one of the old HP, so okay. So Zainab says she also can't do it with from the start. So if somebody else can maybe share it later on, it will be nice. Because again, I think the Math Solver is a good option. I actually had that for quite a while and didn't realize it can do all of these questions. It would have been so much easier. Yeah. So, and again, it's not yeah, it's not a short process, and I think that again is very important. It's not in 1 minute that you can solve it. So, and you need to nearly know what you are doing, and that's why the rules are so important as well, so that you know that if it is e to the power of something, to make that a simpler formula, you can basically log that, but you need to log the other side as well. So that's why, again, if there's quicker ways of doing it, and this, what for me is also interesting here is I normally would have said they won't give you one that is as close. So you need to know that you need to round off also to the highest number. Okay, so that was question 16 and 17. So in this paper, what was for me very, very interesting to note, it's a lot more maths than nearly what has been in your assignments, I think, as well. So that for me was quite interesting to see. One or two questions on simplification. I think even the first one, yeah, okay. There's another algebra calculator that's also been shared that you guys can also go through, and it gives you the answer as well. So it is lots of steps. Okay, so let's get to the another. Yes, Wendy. Okay, question 18. So question 18, if a demand function is that where P and Q are the price and quantity respectively, determine the point price elasticity of demand sheaf. If P is equal to 15, is demand elastic or inelastic at this price? And this is nearly where I'm looking back, and I now actually want to check where is my notes on the elasticity that I nearly want to before we even start, nearly want to say, can't we eliminate a few of the answers? So when I look at the inelastic, elastic, I normally have this graph or line for myself to say at point -1 to this side, it will be elastic. And to this side, where it is 1, it will be elastic. And then in between, it is inelastic. Okay, so if I look at some of these options, and hopefully even before we start working with it, so minus will sit in that, -5.3 will sit in this space. So if that is there, it's supposed to be inelastic, so that won't be one of my answers. So I'm just, before we even get to working out that is one of our options. So let's see, -0.33. -0.33 will sit in there, so that can be an option. 1.33 demand is elastic. Okay, it's sitting there. It can be an option. -0.0375. It is sitting in that space again, so it can be an option. So I just eliminated one of the options. So then the next thing basically is that I would use, there is a few formulas, but I would first try to use the easier formula, the P over P minus A, and then we know that they tell us P is equal to 15. Okay, and what will A be? A is equal to that, so it is -215. So basically 15 divided by minus, oh yes, that is 215, not 2. So it's divided by 200. So that answer will be negative. So that tells me I can actually take that one out as well. So 15 divided by -200 gives me -0.075, which then is option 4. Okay, so I think with this one, normally I would, that formula, I think it is in the book. Let me quickly, I think it is in your, in the study guide. If somebody has the page for that, let me quickly see if I've actually written the page down somewhere. No, I haven't. But it's supposed to be in the study guide. I will just check for you again if I see it on the study guide, but it's on page 1 of my notes as well. So, and I think I've drawn that line as well. So again, I will just share my formula, my 5 pages of information with you guys, that you just have that again. And if you can print it over the weekend maybe, or get it printed somewhere, and as you study now towards the last, write on that pages, I think. So yeah, and that's, yeah, that one in the book is very difficult. So I would, okay, so there is, checking your study guide, page 14 is the recommendation. And it's probably one of those that is not highlighted very well, and you probably have page over it. And I would use this formula much more than I would use the other one, just to be honest. The other one, it is quite difficult, because now you start to need to work out what a few things. So you need to work out what the change is in P and Q, and that just makes it much more difficult. So again, and that's why I think that's why it's useful to use the few pages that are set up, because it also shows some of the shortcuts and the easier formulas to use. Okay, other questions on question 18?
So I just want to make sure, is it elasticity of demand was P over P minus Q or A? Is that a Q?
No, P minus A, sorry. So it's supposed to be A.
Okay, so can we accept that A will always be the constant then?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And just make sure it is for the simple linear regression.
Yeah, got that.
Cool. Because that will be your B or your M. So again, so that will be, in some books it's A, and some books it will be C. So just, I think, so just again, there's always a few ways that they are writing it. So in some books it is A, or some books it's C. Here the B that they are referring to is the 5, but in some cases it is also the slope. So again, that is quite interesting. So let me quickly see it's always price elasticity for demand. I don't know if it's even a price elasticity for supply, Nicola. So that for me is, oof. Now, yeah, that is actually, I don't know if there is one for supply. I'll check it out and probably Google it later. But I've never seen actually a price elasticity for supply, because it's normally driven by demand. It's not driven by the supply side. So interesting. I'll just check. I'll check for you guys later on. I don't think there is one for supply. And I've never seen one in the exams also, or in any of the, so I'll Google it later on to see if there is
I
anything
agree with
like that.
I've also only known price elasticity of demand, but I Googled quickly and it says price elasticity of supply. The price elasticity of supply is a measure used in economics to show the responsiveness or elasticity, with that word anyway.
Yes, I also can't pronounce it.
Elasticity of the quantity supplied of a good or service to a change in its price.
Okay, and here's also one that's been shared on your, okay, so there is actually, okay, so is that just then, let's quickly check, is that just the opposite? I will, okay, so let's quickly, the one formula is P over Q. Okay, I'll check for you. I'll just check for you and later on post it on the on the WhatsApp group. What page was that in the study guide? Page 16. So I just checked for you because I haven't ever seen something like that in any of the papers or assignments, but maybe it is good that we just make sure how to do that. One never knows what can crop up in the exam. Okay, so I'll check that for you and see if I can write out something to see if we can explain it easier as well than what is in the book. Yeah, that's why I also want to check for you, Nicola, if it's not the easier way, because that, when I looked at that now, that was shared, and I'm like, yo, it's not easy. So let's see if I can get a easier way to work that out for you. That and I'll share that on the. It's interesting and it's actually good that you guys are asking these questions, because we're so set in if you look at the different papers and assignments, and we always assume that they won't bring in something new. So let's just make sure that we cover that as well. Cool. Okay, this is quite interesting, the next question. So question 19, so they're asking us, you need to calculate two things here. So you need to calculate the second derivative and then turning points. And I don't even think we have talked about second and third derivatives or anything like that in our work nearly. So maybe this again is a good example of the things that they can ask. So when we look at and this is a cubic function, normally we would just look at the first derivative, and we always say it as we do a derivation of that word also. So when we do it, we would normally then say, okay, it is the x3 minus 1, so it will become x2. We bring the 3 in front. The 2 is multiplied by the 6, so we get minus 12. The 2 minus 1 gives you 1, so it is x. And the c, here the plus 1 disappears, so that is your first derivative. We haven't done a second derivative nearly in any of the assignments, I think. So second derivative is just that we derive this one. So we basically go through exactly the same principle. The 2 goes in front, so it is 3 times 2, which gives me 6. 2 minus 1, so it becomes x. Minus 12x, remember there's always the 1 there, so it will become 1 minus 1, so that will disappear. So that will be your second derivative. If we needed to work out a third derivative, just let's complete this one even if it wasn't asked. The same principle applies here. So the 1 goes in front and multiply by the 6. 1 minus 1 will give you 0. So the third derivative would have just been 6. Okay, so they're asking us for the second derivative. So the second derivative is 6x minus 12. Okay, so there's a 6x minus 12. It is, that was the first derivative, so it's not that one. So again, shows you what we're doing. That would have been also the first one, just in a simplified method. So if you just did it, the first derivative, you would have gotten one of those answers as well. So, okay, so here we know it's not that. It is not that one, so we can at least take those two out. So now they're also asking us to work out the turning point. So how do you work out the turning point? Okay, first derivative, and then what do? You use the minus b formula. Okay, so and how does that minus b formula look like? So is it the minus b over, and this is interesting. So I always, okay, this for me is now interesting. So, and this is now, I nearly got caught up here as well. So when you look at, so remember your original one is your cubic. So because I now nearly made the mistake. So it will be something like that. So you will actually have two turning points. Okay, so because I now wanted to say to you, but when we look at the quadratic, there is this formula as well to work out the turning point. But remember, your original equation is cubic. So you need to, with that formula, the first derivative, you will need to solve. Basically, what you need to do is equal to 0, and you need to solve the x's. Okay, and that nearly is, I'm just looking at, there they nearly give us what we need to work with. So, because there they already have actually factorized it for us. So if we factorize it out, it will be, I'll take out 3x. What is left here is x. If I take out 3x there, what is left is minus 4. So then we need to say 3x is equal to 0, and x minus 4 is equal to 0. So x is equal to 0, and x is equal to 4. And then we are sitting with, let's quickly check. There is my options, so option 3. Okay. Yeah, so I was, and that's why whoever said the minus b formula, I can just see the brain. That's why I wanted to ask why, because I was thinking the normal turning point is minus b over 2a, but we're actually not working just with that one. We're working with that original one. So you still need to, and yes, unlike all of these things, so there is also a nice web page to use as well. We'll also share that again on the WhatsApp group as well. Yeah, so this one again, it was nearly very maths driven. Not a lot of demand, supply, or differentiation. You needed to do a first derivative, and then you actually need to know how to do the second derivative. I think that's the important one here. And then you need to know what to do next in that step. So what is the next thing that you need to do? Okay, so maybe we've got a few minutes left. Anybody wants to ask a question on that? Otherwise, we'll quickly end with question 20. Any questions, Appel? Let's do question 20, and then we'll chat about or is there a question?
I just wanted to ask whether you can use the B minus formula or the minus B formula then, or you can factorize. That's the two options.
So you can use, yes, that minus B formula, but that is when the minus B plus minus B to the power of that long one.
Yeah.
So yes, you could have used both of them.
Okay.
I normally first look at factorization, because then I know I'm normally will make less mistakes with that, because for other formula I always need to remember where's the minuses and things like that. But you could have used the minus B formula as well. So perfect. Both will work, and both will give you the same answer. Okay, so let's finish off with question 20, and let's look at what they are asking us. This was also the first time. Approximately how many units must be manufactured to maximize a profit defined by the function? Okay, okay, cool. So two things here is maximize, that is negative. So we know the formula, or the quadratic in this instance will go down. So we need to find out that point, and that is the turning point. So what I wanted to do in the previous question, we can actually do here. So this is the minus B over 2A. So then if we basically solve that, we have the answer. So minus B, so let's again, I just want always, I write it when I have this quadratic, I just always write underneath it where the A, B, and C normally is, but I don't get confused. So minus B, so minus 8 over 2A, so it's over 2A is minus 1. So it's basically minus 8 over minus 2. So that will give me 4 units. So this was actually, in a sense, an easy question, but you still needed to remember what formula to use for this one. And again, it's phrased different than what some of your assignments would have been as well. So this was quite an interesting one when I looked at this, and here it is. It's interesting if you would have used the Scully method and put in 1 and see what the answer is, and if you put in 2 and 3 and 4, it will probably, if you put in 1, it will give you an answer that is not that is smaller, and then it goes up until the point of 4. Interesting. If you didn't know what to do here, I would have just, and I not say option 3. I would have just looked at this and seen, okay, it goes from 1 to 4, probably because that is the biggest number of the 4 options in the exam. That is what I would have done if I didn't have a clue what to do here. Is I would have said, okay, I need to maximize that. So for me to maximize that, I probably would have said, okay, put in the highest number. If I didn't know at all what to do, that is probably what I would have done. If it was to minimize, I would have probably used the lowest number that they give me. It doesn't mean it will always be like that, but that is just what I would have done if I didn't have a clue what to do in the exam with this one. Okay, so your option would have been option 4, but we've done it with a formula, so perfect. Okay, so that's it for today. But quickly, how do you guys feel about the exam and stressing? Is there anybody writing anything else on Monday as well? And we can use the WhatsApp. I think the WhatsApp will become very busy over the next few days, but please use it. Don't. And if I don't reply, there will be somebody else that will be replying and giving you assistance. So please use the WhatsApp for the next few days. Yeah. And then that is it for the Saturday. There is a session on Monday as well, from 4:30 to 6, just for last preparations nearly, and basically just to, if there is last questions and things that are confusing for you to ask, and if there's anything that you guys feel over the weekend that we need to cover on Monday that is still confusing for you, please just send as a question nearly, and then we can tackle it on Monday if we don't solve it over the weekend. Okay, good luck, guys. Good luck with the preparation, and then we'll chat on Monday again.
Hello.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I just want to ask a question with regards to the elasticity of demand.
Yes.
I've seen in previous past papers where they have like options, not specifically this question in the way, but like in previous past papers where they say, like, just say, for example, there's the 0.075, right? And then they give a positive 0.075. But then just say we get minus 0.075 in our answer, but it's really inelastic. But then the options they give, it says elastic or like less than 1 or greater than 1. But like we've learned that the absolute value of the elasticity of demand gives you a positive value as well. So what do you choose, the positive or the negative one?
So, and that's a very good question. So I think, and this one was strange for me because when normally you have only 2 answers. The one is, say, if you worked this one a different way, they would have said, and let's take this example. So normally your options would have been minus 0.75 demand is inelastic, or they would give you positive 0.075 demand is elastic, and then they give you a 1.33 and a minus 1.33 nearly. So normally you only have like 2 really numeric answers that you can work out, and then they give you the option of the inelasticity or if it's elastic. So my answer would be for you is to look at firstly so if it is, and let's look at this one. So if it is minus or positive, it will still be inelastic because it will be less than 1, but it will be bigger than minus 1. So it doesn't matter. So they won't give you in the exam a minus 0.075 inelastic and a minus 0.075 that is, well, that is, okay, let me rephrase it. They won't give you a minus 0.075 inelastic and a positive 0.075 that is inelastic, because we know that that is supposed to be both inelastic, and if you use the positive or the absolute value, it turns it into a positive. So I probably have made you now even more confused, but
no, I'm not confused. It's just say they do that, right? But then they say, like, example, ED is greater than 1. But mean times minus 0.075 is actually less than 1. So then do you choose none of the above?
No, but see, and that for me is, say, doesn't matter the answer if it is negative or positive. So if you had a minus 1.5, it will be elastic. If you have that, if you make it the absolute value, it will be 1.5 and it will still be elastic.
Yeah.
So
but then there'll be like example, it's less than 1.
Yes, so if they give you, if an option was 0.075 inelastic, you would have still chosen it because it's the absolute value, because we've also because in all the study guides and things like that, they talk about the absolute value as well. So you would still then pick it and not the none of the above.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
so I think I think it has to tick all the options, like if it's less than 1 or it's inelastic and it's your answer that you have, like if it's a negative, you choose the negative answer that you get, not the positive one that if you get.
See that for me is always the difficulty in how they explain it in some of the study guides as well, because in a lot of the study guides they talk about the absolute value as well.
Yeah, they always say like choose the positive one because like you're always choosing the absolute value.
Yes, so I would, and again they won't in the exam give you the negative and the positive that could be both the same answer. It's like they won't, because both in a sense is correct. So they won't give you both of them in, and that's why I also don't like the none of the above, because it nearly makes you start to wonder. Because now if there isn't a positive or a negative, if it was only 0.075, I would have probably done the same as you and said, no, but that is what I got. If you look at my formula, I haven't put the absolute value because we don't always use the absolute value every time. So I would have probably also then said none of the above. And that is unfortunate, and that's why I'm hoping that they've taken the none of the above out, just that it's not that create that confusion.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, no problem. Okay, cool, guys. I'm going to stop the recording now as well, and then have an awesome weekend and good luck with the studies.